I've been farming for 7 years, going on 8, right? I'm a commercial farmer. I'm Global GAP accredited. I've got very high-tech infrastructure on my farm, which costs a lot of money to put up, all in the aim of being sustainable, right? As much as I am a farmer, I am a businesswoman, right? Because I've got employees to look after. But then there's this whole industry standards that you have to keep up with. So I primarily produce peppers. So it's more than just planting a seed on the ground, harvest, pack, sell, put on a truck and go. That's pretty much the trade, right? But in that environment in which I'm operating, there's food safety standards that I have to adhere to. I supply to retail, wholesalers, online fresh produce markets, and typically my product ends in retail. So there's food safety standards that I have to adhere to. There's global GAP standards, good agricultural practice standards that I have to adhere to. There's a number of supplier auditing measures and boxes that I need to tick as a producer, over and above just planting a seed, let it grow, and sell. So now there's this term called sustainability, looking after the environment, etc. So because I farm primarily under greenhouses, my business strategy was I have to keep harvesting, right? I cannot wait for withholding periods. So for example, when you're using pesticides and herbicides, you know, some of the labels would say you spray today, but you can only harvest after 14 days, etc. So my business model is such an intensive farming operation where I need to be harvesting every single day for the next 6 months, predominantly within the end of November all the way to May. So my strategy then has gone to use biologicals to keep to the sustainability aspect. But then I use biologicals from a herbicide and a pesticide perspective. However, my biggest challenge as a businesswoman is how do I find like partners like Omnia or have a conversation with Omnia to say other biological fertilizers, because industry is pressurizing me, the farmer, to keep sustainability afloat and to farm in a healthy environment. But yet again, I'm a businesswoman. I have to think of the people, the planet, and profits. Because if I don't grow or make profits, I can't employ more people. So you find that conversations are being had everywhere. There's a sustainability conversation. There's a profitability conversation. Because tomorrow, if I need to put solar on my farm, I have to speak to my bank, right? My bank wants to know, are you making a profit? They don't care about sustainability in that conversation. Then there's people and suppliers and customers that I have to think of. Then there's certification standards that I also have to think of. So these are all the various forces that come to myself as a farmer that I have to think, at the end of the day, how do I keep the business afloat? And another big issue that I think we're not having from a sustainability issue versus food safety and compliance, the standards are up in the air. So for example, as a global GAP certified farm, right, there's certain labels, certain chemicals that I can use on my peppers, right? And if I don't use that, then I'm falling outside of the parameters of global GAP. Now the issue then comes to a point where when you look at what's available in the market, in terms of what can I use in my peppers, it's not approved from a global GAP standards. And to get a product into the market, whether it's a fertilizer, herbicide, they have to get approved by Department of Agriculture, which can take years. So there's an inconsistency around policy, labeling, and then trying to farm for the future. And I think this is what keeps the consumers confused at the end of the day. Because then they're told, oh, farmers need to farm organically. You know, when I meet people, they're like, oh, is your farm organic? I feel like the consumers don't know what organic means, you know, because there are products that are sitting on your favorite retail shelves that have pesticides on it, you know. But again, how do I become 100% organic if the industry wants me to do that? Because certain things, like a calcium nitrate, potassium sulfate, you don't get that easily available that's organic in the market or biological in the market. So how do I then farm at the end of the day? So I feel like, you know, in trying to come to this whole kumbaya situation where every part in the value chain across the industry can meet each other we have to have these conversations and be quite frank to say, at the end of the day, farmers need to make money as much as the logistics supplier that I use needs to make money, my retailer needs to make money. And so how do we all work together to make food affordable for the consumer, also very safe to eat, because I also buy my own papers, right? I also consume my own products as well. So that's just something I wanted to highlight in response to your question around how do we farm sustainably? How do we farm ethically? But then again, guys, farmers are business people. We have to make money because we employ hundreds of people. And then you're faced with the adverse situation of what Francois mentioned, how do we also remain competitive? Because if I want to export my papers tomorrow, the price that I'm setting, is it going to cover all the loopholes that awaits me throughout the value chain when I have to export?